Hello and welcome back. So this whole business of becoming happy, finding peace, can be very complicated. Can bring you to a point where you feel worse than what you did when you started. There's tremendous potential for one to lose him or herself during the process of discovering who it is that you really are. Who am I? Taking that question inward and looking past your parts. Looking inside of yourself. And it seems that everything you see is only one object of perception. And it seems that the deeper you look, there's not really a me objectively. There's not really, you can't say I am and then look at any of the parts and say that is me. Instead, you can only look and divide all of your aspects further and further, separating, finding differences, comparing. When you look at the mind, when you look from the perspective of that aspect of your mind, when you try to find yourself as though you're trying to find an object, you'll only dissect yourself. You'll only split yourself up further. So one might say, well, I'm all those things. I'm my hand. I'm also the thought that thought about the hand. I'm all of those things. Well, are you really all of those things? Or are you something deeper than what sees all of your parts and can say, well, all of those parts combined is Danny? Is all of those parts really Danny? Or is a mind making a clever trick into creating a category and saying, when you take these things, it becomes this? And is that really a reality of me? Or is that just a combination of things? Is that nothing more than a thought, is what I'm saying? Is it nothing more than a concept? When you say, who am I? Can you say, this is I? Can you narrow it down to one thing, including a thought? Because when you look at all your parts and say, okay, well, all of those things have a sense of me in them, because when I touch something, I feel it. Okay, that's my hand. I have a picture in my mind about one time when I got my finger was hurt. Oh, that picture in my mind about that, I see that. That's my mind. So that's also part of me. And then you hear sounds, for example, and you can say, oh, I hear that. So these ears, they must be me as well. And when you combine all of them, everything that is in the experience of my or I, then it creates a concept of me. Is this who you really are? Or have you only just found the ego? Have you found your ego? To find what you are truly, you have to first find what you're not. So this is an important step and needs to be in combination with an important understanding that you are not your parts, nor are you the whole and the sum of your parts. That is still not you. It is, again, just parts of an experience. It's a thought. It's a concept. There is no such thing as society. Society is a collective agreement that we all behave a certain way so that everyone can be basically trustable. We know that everyone in this place is going to act such and such a way, so we can relax a little bit. So we can feel a little bit safer because we know what to expect. And we can make plans. We can settle within ourselves. And that's a concept. Society is not reality. It's an idea. It's a collective agreement. So in a sense, when you look at your parts and say, this is I, it's a collective accumulation of perceptions, sense objects, that you prop up with a sense of I, my, me. You've just found your ego. And your ego is the one that found it. You used your ego to find your ego. Now, the reason I'm talking about this is because when you are not the reason I'm talking about know thyself or who am I is because who you think you are is directly related to how happy, how much peace you feel inside of yourself. I've seen this myself. I've read about it. I've seen it by practicing it. And I live a lot of these practices and have found within myself that when I identify with anger, for example, with the story in the mind saying, this is happening to me, this is happening to me, this is happening to me, I can't believe you are doing this to me. Maybe you don't see the person as the perpetrator. You still feel it sometimes, and that has also been my experience. I know this person isn't doing it to me, but I am still angry. I am still angry. I am still angry. And in that moment as well, you are still identified as your anger. So in those moments, you are the ego. You are identified. Your sense of I is fooled. It is tricked. It happens to me as well. But to be able to see it and to recognize what's happening, it snaps you out of it immediately. Even though the emotional response might still linger, intellectually, you are free from it. Once you recognize, oh shit, it's not me that is angry, but an aspect of me that I can't even say I, just an aspect, there is an aspect of witnessing. There is a witnessing aspect within all of this, within this whole entire, the being, I can't even think of the right word, that sees it, that witnesses it, before the judgment is made. There's a part of you that is a witness, and then there's another aspect that responds to the witnessing. So your perception, your awareness of what is going on, in a sense, is closer to who you are, and then your ego will then interpret what it is that you witness. When I say you, it's I refer more to the deeper aspect of what it is that we all are. It's that witnessing presence. And if you look closely, you'll notice that the interpretation made from the interpretation of that witnessing, whatever it is that you witnessed, is going to be different in every person. Your interpretation is going to be different than mine. And if you notice, 5 years ago, your interpretation, 10 years ago, 3 days ago even, or 2 days from now, 3 days, 10 days, 5 years from now, your interpretation to what it is that you witnessed will change as well. So when you're going in asking yourself, what am I? Who am I? Can you be anything that is not there or temporarily? Can you be anything that is not the same always? Is that possible? Can you be a thought? You, who you really are, what am I? Well, a thought comes, the witnessing aspect of you sees it coming, and then it goes, and then it's gone. Just like at night when you have a dream. You dream a dream, it was there, it felt real while it was happening, but now it's gone. But there's a part of you that's still there. So when you ask yourself, what am I? Are you those thoughts that come and go? Or are you that aspect that witnesses everything as it appears to you? And even that aspect of you that reacts, which is what I'm talking about right now. Are you the part of you that reacts to the witnessing, what it is that you see, or are you the witness itself? If you follow this back logically, it seems to make logical sense that you are the witness. But is that your experience in the moment? And that is the point of Buddhism teachings, Taoism, and all of these mystical, when I say mystical, it's very common sense. It's just we've mystified it. So that's what I mean when I say mystical. It's not really that mystical. It's not mystical at all. It's very profoundly common sense, very simple stuff. But we've mystified it. So when I say mystical teachings, all these teachings point to the fact that we are the witness. That even when you die, that your discerning mind, your ability to make decisions, that aspect of you that looks at a situation and then speaks about it, interprets it, and gives you a response whether you should do this or that, or all that internal chatter. When you die, that goes with the death, but the witnessing aspect, very subtle witnessing aspect in you is still there. That's what they all say. And what I've found, even though I can't speak about what happens after death, because it hasn't been in my experience from which I'm speaking to you, I can say that it does bring you an overwhelming sense of peace, an overwhelming sense of this is okay, without having to say it's okay or talk yourself into, okay, I get it, I'm overreacting. When you can face and be present and aware of the witness that you are that witness, as life is, unfolding around you, if you will, you don't get pulled in to the story that is generated by your mind nearly as intensely. And the sense of peace and calm and happiness is much more intense. It's more present. It's not wavering. You recognize that that is a natural state within you. That unless your mind makes a disturbance in the form of you confusing your sense of who you are with your thoughts versus the witness that sees the thoughts, you recognize that identifying with the thoughts is what is causing you to be unhappy. Because the happiness is always there when you do nothing. When you identify as the witness, that sense of joy, peace, calmness, acceptance, compassion, loving, all of that stuff is there fundamentally. You see it. You are it. And it's in those moments, again, when you're faced with a situation where you lose that ability to remember, if you will, what it is that I am. And you're taken in by a story, by habit, that you see, oh, I feel like crap all of a sudden. Again, well, a few minutes ago I felt great. I remembered who I was. And now I forgot who I was and I feel horrible. Interesting. So when you look in these moments really deeply, you see that it's only a problem of misidentification. Because when you identify as the watcher and you can remain calm, not polarized by what a person says or a situation, you don't lose yourself so quickly and intensely in a story that your mind shows you that you completely forget and lose who you are. When you can stay centered, you're always happy. When you lose yourself in a story, you feel miserable. So it seems very simple. But of course it's not that simple in practice. Because a lot of these habits of blaming other people and comparing and looking to see if things are going our way, we have a habit of losing ourselves in the emotional component and the story that's generated in combination with that emotional component of our lives, in our body. We lose ourselves in our emotions. We lose ourselves in the story that the emotion is around, and so on. So when you go into the question of who am I, there's tremendous potential for you to free yourself from your parts and to free and liberate other people from their parts. When you see that a person is angry at you, you can then avoid labeling that person, saying that he is the cause of this, or this person is an asshole, or this person, wow, he's angry. This person is angry at me. Is he really angry? Do you remember who that person is? Just like you, if you are the witness, if you are the ocean, but the waves are just, a disturbance on the surface of the ocean, then are you getting mad in response either to the ocean? Or are you getting upset at something that happens on the surface of the ocean? What are you forgetting in your perception? So sometimes in order to remember, we need to use our discriminatory awareness and say, okay, right now, what is it that I am using to, or what is it that I am labeling that person as? And is that a reality? Or is this simply another part of him that is coming and going? Is this another temporal flux in this person's experience, in my experience of this person? Am I saying he is that anger right now as a permanent, that's who that is? Am I confused? So oftentimes we need to use our discriminatory awareness in order to bring those sorts of questions to the forefront within ourselves and say, am I being truthful in my vision right now? So, and this can remind you to, or help you to remember your own sense of who you are, the watcher within you. So sometimes you might lose yourself, and then your discriminatory awareness, especially if you train it as a habit to help you in those situations, will help you to become centered again. Will continually have you question whether or not whatever it is you're thinking, is it as close to the truth as possible, or am I seeing a piece of that person? Am I looking at his anger and labeling him as his anger, or his anger as him, or vice versa, or whatever? Am I looking at a flower and saying it's the thorns because I just got picked by the thorn, is basically what I'm saying. It just, it hurts. Ow, I'm bleeding. Oh, that stupid flower. Do you see what I'm saying? So, when in fact it wasn't the flower itself, it's just that thorn happens to be there. And if I poke the thorn, then chances are I'm going to puncture the skin on the flesh here, and it's going to bleed. So my only power is my reaction to that. And I need to use my discriminatory awareness to not get angry at the whole flower and recognize that it wasn't the flower's fault. The flower is flowering, and the thorns are part of its flowering. That person in front of you is simply just acting on its karmas as well. It's just as though the flower, just like the flower is. Might not be as intense and loud a flower, but human just has more ways to express itself. So are you calling that person a thorn when if you use your discriminatory awareness, you can bring yourself to a point to see that you're only narrowing that person down to a small part? And are you calling him, are you labeling that person based on that part that is loudest to you in your perception right now? So we need to broaden our perception of situations, people. Anytime you feel good or bad, any of the two polarities, you're going to find that you're slightly blinded. If you're too happy or if you're too sad, angry, joyful, you're going to find there's, on any extreme of the two, you're slightly blinded, and you're, on one side, if you're happy, you're just choosing to look at the things you like, and on one side, if you're sad, you're just choosing to look at the things you don't like. It's very simple. But are you the witness, or are you lost in the story that the witness can see? He's looking at this side, okay, well, I feel like this. The witness is looking at this side, oh, I feel like this. Are you these two changing aspects, or are you the witness that sees it all? And it's hard to remember that all the time, because we've been trained for